Welcome to Whistle Talk. In today's episode, we have the legendary Coach John Hart, with 39 years of head coaching experience and well over 300 career victories. We'll dive into his illustrious career, discuss his interactions with officials, and learn how he teaches his players to engage with them. Plus, we'll explore the differences in officiating between the states of Indiana and Illinois and hear about the most memorable moments in sports. Stay tuned for this insightful conversation with Coach Hart, coming up next on Whistle Talk.
Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Whistle Talk, where we dive deep into the world of sports officiating and coaching, specifically on the football side. Today, I've got the honor of speaking with head coach John Hart, a true legend in the football realm, in the coaching realm, known for his remarkable career and his championship success. I could spend our whole podcast just going over his resume, so I would rather pass it over to you, Coach, and allow you to talk. Coach, thank you very much for taking the time to join us tonight. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us on. Thanks for having me on. It's I say this without trying to butter you up or anything, but it's really cool. We're trying to make the game better and taking the time, and you taking the time because as we spoke earlier, the shortage in referees, and I don't know what the best answer is. Maybe you'll tell me what the best answer is so I can kind of pass it on to our administrators. But we need more great people in the game because this is a great game, and the referees are a huge part of it.
Well, we appreciate that, and you kind of hit it. We're trying to, both of us, you and I, are both trying to keep this game sustainable and continue growing the game. We both have a love and a passion for the game that we want to see it just get better and better. So, Coach, one thing I could ask is, when your kids do graduate and come back, if they're looking for a side job, a little side hustle, have them put the stripes on. They love the sport. It's a great way to stay involved in the sport.
Absolutely. We get a lot of kids in coaching and now I'm pushing really hard on the people who choose other professions maybe to get back to the game by refereeing, even if it's at the lower levels. I think anybody who starts at the lower levels, that's how they learn to love doing and kind of get to your level and all the way up to the Big Ten or the NFL. But it's a passion, just like coaching.
Absolutely. So, Coach, you are now at Brownsburg High School back in Indiana, correct?
Correct. We're school about 3,500. We've had a tremendous amount of success. I think we've been here 8 years. I think we're the second winningest 6A school, which is the biggest in Indiana since our 8 years here, and the Indianapolis area. Most college coaches, and matter of fact, I seen this about 10 years ago. We were ranked as the second best metropolitan area to recruit from for Division I players. It is a very small circle, and I know if you took all of Dallas, you could, in which, by the way, Texas was number one. I think it was Dallas. But our area is great football. I don't know that we don't see a team with at least 3 Division I kids on them, on that team every week. And I was at Illinois before I came here, and we were in the biggest class there, which is 8A. And you might go the entire season and only see 3 Division I players, even in the biggest class. So, and there is great football in both states. I'm not saying one's better than the other. It's just very condensed in our area.
So I know, Coach, you just in our pre-roll conversation, you come across as a very modest individual and humble individual, and that's a great trait. But I'm going to ask you to brag about yourself a little bit. What is your career coaching record, if you remember offhand?
I don't. I think I'm going to say somewhere around 350 wins, and we've had a couple state championships throughout the years, and we've really kind of went in and rebuilt almost every program that we started with. I was 22 when I became a head coach. I think the High School Football America said I was the youngest head coach ever. I don't know if that's
Wow.
true, but so I was really young. I just turned 22. So, but we took over a program that hadn't won. I think they'd only won 3 games like in the last 5 years, and we went in there and we've turned that program around. And I think we still have the record for most wins in a season. And I could, we talked. One of the best thing that happened from there, that's been 39 years ago, by the way. We're still on a group text message with those players from those many years ago. So, as people are watching stuff and going like, how important is football? When, you never see those guys again. I really don't think that's true. Football has a stronger bond than the school itself, I think.
I
But
couldn't agree with you more.
But we went for my family and I. We moved to Mount Carmel, which is real close to Edwards County in Illinois, and down in southeastern Illinois. It's a school of about 700. It was back then, and we had several undefeated seasons. We never made it to the state championship, but we were there for 11 years. I really say when people talk about who made what, Mount Carmel kind of made me a football coach. It taught me how to be a football coach. And our kids kind of came through there. Then we moved to Evansville Reitz, which has, by the way, Mount Carmel and Evansville Reitz probably have the 2 most famous stadiums in both states. They're incredible stadiums. And the following is huge at both those schools. But at Evansville Reitz, when we moved there, my oldest son was a sophomore. We went to semi-state the first year. They'd never been to semi-state. And Nick was the quarterback, and it was an incredible year. Matter of fact, that 2001 team just asked me back for a fundraiser, and it was sold out. There was hundreds and hundreds of people there. It was phenomenal. It's how much Evansville Reitz loves football. And I think I had somewhere near 1,000 hugs.
Oh, wow.
It was so emotional. And so you think like, oh, you're not that big of an impact. And then you find out that they impacted your life and the coaches, and we impacted each other's lives and our families. But we were there 7 years, won a state championship, the first one since the playoffs had started in Evansville. My quarterback was Mr. Football, which is the state of Indiana actually has one player that the whole state votes on who the best football player in the state is. And the only time it's been won that far south has been Paul McIntosh, the kid that won it.
Nice.
Then we moved to Warren Central, which Warren Central was a national power and kind of fell in some tough times. So they, we came in there, and I think 3 years later, we won the state championship there. And the really cool part about that was my oldest son was the offensive coordinator, and my youngest son was the starting quarterback.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, not often do you get that opportunity. Left there for another rebuild in Huntley, Illinois, school about 3,000 up by Chicago. And they'd had some really, really tough years. And we flipped them into a perennial state power, and still are. They still are, which is I can say that about all the schools that I just talked about. Edwards County's fell in tough times, but all the others are still state powers.
Nice.
And from there, I came to Brownsburg to get back near my family, or our family, I should say. And we get to see them quite regularly. Interesting. So those 2 sons I just talked about.
Yep.
So we have 2 sons and 2 daughters. the year we came here, one son was at Kankakee, Illinois, as a head coach. The other one was at Gibson Southern, and they both played in the state championship in the same weekend of the same year.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah. So some family pride there as far as having that part. So, yeah, I've been blessed with some great players. Sheldon Day, who's in the NFL, he's probably the most famous football player I've had. Ricky Kreider, who was an incredible football player at Evansville Rights, is still on my coaching staff. So a lot of and Paul McIntosh, the guy that won Mr. Football, lives now here in Brownsburg. So the relationships have been very strong.
That's great stuff. And for the listeners, I want to backtrack. That number that Coach threw out there before, doing a little research beforehand, this is as of 2 years ago, Coach. I don't know if you knew this, but your coaching record was top 20 in the country for active coaches, and that was 2 years ago. So and you've had 2 successful seasons since then. So probably just increased. So that's great stuff. And again, very humble. I love how you displayed that, and I love how you had your family involved in it throughout. That's fantastic stuff. And for the non-football people that are out there that might be listening, for the casual football fan, not only having your family, but you built more families. You developed more families, a football family, a community family. And that's one of the great things about this sport that I truly love, and why I'm doing what I'm doing and why you're doing what you're doing is because it is so much about life and life through a game, in essence, if that makes any sense.
Well, and I'll throw my wife Jan is in the other room, but all 4 of our kids are in education. For us, it's public education. So all 4 of our kids, and she's, I think, in her 34th year as a kindergarten teacher. So,
oh, awesome.
So again, I talked to you about it, but how you make things better in the game of football or the game of life. We've all been in education, and I hope public education gets the fair parts going forward, because it's a little scary right now. I think we get a bad rep a lot of times as far as the impact we make in people's lives.
I hear you. I'm also in education, and my wife is also a teacher too. So it runs deep in our family also. So, Coach, now 39 years. That's incredible. Still active, involved with it. But through that time, now we're gonna talk a little officiating. Now you've had to have some interesting interactions with some officials in your career. What is something that you can talk to our listeners about how you can deal with 39 years, couple state championships? You've been in some high pressure situations. How do you try to manage yourself in those situations when maybe a call doesn't go your way? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'll tell you this, Mike. I think, and I'll start with this. I think the most important thing, if I'm talking to officials right now, that humbles us coaches. And again, I'm an emotional guy. I don't know if you can be a football coach and not be an emotional guy. But if you guys, our 2 professions, when we communicate with each other, it's hard to be an idiot on our side if professionally you guys are explaining what you saw or what you didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been humbled numerous times by officials who were correct and professional, and even more so when they maybe missed a call. And we have some great officials around the Indianapolis area. We really do. They're high professional people there. And probably some of my favorite ones was this past year, and it was a crazy thing that happens in the end zone, and they blew it dead. and then it becomes an inadvertent whistle. And they had to
Yep,
bring the ball back out, and they felt worse than I did. And now
that.
again, if
Yeah,
it had cost us a
we
ball game,
lose
maybe I would have felt
sleep
worse.
about those.
Yeah,
Inadvertent whistles
yes.
are the cardinal sins. We lose sleep about those. Knock on wood. I haven't personally had one myself in a varsity game, JV game. I can't say the same. Uh, but yeah, it's something that we never want to have happen, but it does unfortunately happen sometimes.
We coach our kids, and I was at my oldest son's practice a couple of years ago, and I seen him coaching his kids how you talk to a referee about getting the football in their hand, about teaching them respect, and people go like, "Oh, you're trying to get a call." Uh, I I think it's a lesson. I think it's a life lesson. Whether you're talking to a teacher or a policeman or a referee or anybody that you want to treat you with respect, that if you initiate the respect, most times you're going to get their respect, even if they don't give you what you want. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, especially in our world now, that if you don't get what you want, somebody has to become the enemy. And like I said, I've been taught more by referees than I've ever taught a referee.
That's good to hear on our end. So I appreciate you saying that. So with that now, and you're referring to your son and how you're teaching and how you're teaching your players. How many officials in Indiana do you guys have per game for a regular season game? Do you guys have 5-man crews or 6-man crews?
I believe they're all five.
Okay.
Uh, so I don't. We may have six. I know we do in the playoffs. We have an
Mm-hmm.
alternate official that just helps mark the change and stuff. But I think just five. Gosh, if I say that and I'm wrong, I'm going to look really bad. So,
Well, here in New Jersey, we predominantly are a 6-man crew. So we'll pretty much have 2 people stationed on the line of scrimmage that aren't going to float and move down field until the ball is past them, and then we've got 2 deeper wings also along the sideline. So I used to be a side wing, a short wing myself. I was one of those people at the line of scrimmage. So being at the line of scrimmage, we're kind of right in the middle of everything where coaches are calling in plays, the defensive coaches are standing there, you're subbing in and out and different things like that. It can get a little chaotic there. And for us, it can actually get a little bit dangerous if the sidelines aren't clear and things like that, because we're kind of trying to focus everything we can on the field. And all of a sudden we're running downfield and we run into either a coach or a player. What is something that you do to help manage the sidelines? And then conversely, communicating with the official that you have on your near sideline?
uh, Robert Falcons is kind of, for our association, is the head of officiating in the state of Indiana, and I think he's helps the game flow by consistency of what the sideline should look like.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's easy for me, and we rehearse it. We bring in refs, a couple times a year, before the season starts, to see if I'm missing holding calls or making sure our kids are making the right signals when they line up, and they're clear about those things. So we don't get penalized a lot on those type of things because I think we rehearse them a lot.
Yep.
But it doesn't dictate a practice. It becomes just the norm. We're a very fast paced team. So, matter of fact, if it's 12 seconds into the 40-second clock, and if we're not lined up and snapping the ball, it's a late play for us. So
Oh, wow.
we're good. Yeah, we're really, really fast. Almost always we're waiting on the referees. Now again, obviously we can change tempo and stuff like that for a game, but I think the key is going back to to Robert and what he instills here in the state as far as officiating. We're really strict on our sidelines, and um, I have no problem with a coach asking a referee what he's seen, or I don't like them when they scream and go, "Give a number," he may not have a number, and there's a lot of moving parts. Uh, But so we tell, we talk about address. I'll get mad at them if we're having a communication problem, but I really get upset with our coaches if they say anything to a referee other than a question.
Okay.
We talk to our players about how to address a referee, because I don't tell them they can't talk to them. I think that's probably not good for either side. But again, I think the best officiating, and when we have the least amount of problems, is that if if the umpire comes over to me and says, "Hey, number 76 he's grabbing on at the end," and I don't want to call it, and I don't, I'm not going to try to be Nick, but I've warned him twice.
Yep.
Well, then we can coach him up on the sidelines. And I'm the opposite of what some people would say. People would go like the best referees are the ones that are most unnoticed. I think the best referees are the ones who communicate with kids and communicate with us. And I'll just say why I feel that way, because you guys might be at the best at communicating and everything else, and then the next group may not. And if you haven't told us, hey, you're holding on the backside, but it didn't affect the play and it wasn't egregious, and we don't address that, then all of a sudden we get a crew that does want to concentrate on that. Then we're all upset. And I've been the dumb guy that said, we haven't had 5 penalties all year, and we're in the 8th game, and we got 3 in this game. I've said the same stupid stuff all of us coaches have said. But the problem was it wasn't addressed usually. And then you don't have those issues.
Yeah, one of the big things that my particular crew that we always talk about pregame, and then after the game we'll go out and we'll talk about the game, but we like to do a lot of preventative officiating. First, I'm going to talk to the kid. Now, I'm an umpire right now. I'm in the middle of the field, and in New Jersey, I'm still on the defensive side of the ball. But there's times I will stand over the ball waiting for the offense to come out and say, hey, 75, got to work the hands inside, got to run the feet. If I see the feet's, usually the feet's not moving, the feet aren't moving, and the hands are holding. I said, I'm going to have to bang you. So I'm going to give the player a warning first. And now the other thing that New Jersey did a couple of years ago is we wear O-to-O headsets. So yes, we're in communication with all of our officials on the field. So I can easily then call over to my sideline and say, hey, Joey, let the coach know that I talked to 73 about his hands. So make them aware of it. Because again, now you talked about how we want to go unnoticed. I do agree with you. We do want to go noticed by the right people. We want to go unnoticed by the people that are up in the stands. We don't want them to know that we're there. But the kids on the field, they need to know that we're there vocally. I'm talking more than I'm blowing my whistle. I'd rather say get off, roll off, use the ground, things like that, and communicating it back and forth to the sideline, as opposed to my white hat having a signal and you getting on the microphone and calling out a holding on number 73. I'd rather try to nip that in the bud early. So
I think headsets have been a huge addition to the officiating to communicate with coaches. We have, and I know it's easy to say when it's not in the heat of the moment, we do have terrific officials, especially in the Indianapolis area and the Evansville area, the 2 areas I've been in where I've coached for long periods of time, are really good officials.
So now, what kind of relationship do you try to set up prior to the game? I know everybody has a pregame conference with the head coach. The head in New Jersey, it's myself as the umpire and our head referee that go and meet with each team's head coach. What are some of those conversations that you have with them there?
I'll bring up one that I think was critical about preventive officiating. We have a play. We had a great running back last year, ran for 2,000 yards. And we used to direct snap to him. Well, we would go up and do virtually what the NFL has done in the past, but go up behind the guard.
Okay.
And set go, and then the direct snap would go to him as opposed to quarterback sneaks or whatever. Well, we'd done it 2 games prior to, and I think the officiating crew had talked to, again, Robert Falcons, and then Robert communicated with them about, hey, if his hands are underneath, that's simulating a snap,
Yep.
and that should be a penalty. And it could have changed the entire game. If we'd have got a 5-yard penalty because I wasn't aware and the other previous officials weren't aware of it either.
Yep.
So there was a mandate put out across the whole state for all officials, not so much about Brownsburg, but hey, this is an illegal simulation of snap. But they came to us before the game and just said, hey, I don't know if you're planning on using this play, but if you put your hands underneath it. So I asked him, I said, so it's not about where we line up, right? And he wasn't for sure. I don't, now I'm recollecting on a story, but I don't think he was for sure at that time. So we didn't use that play at all. So then I got clarification that you can, as a quarterback, walk up, stand behind the guard, and as long as your hands don't go underneath, you can legally direct snap to the, but it makes it tough on the defense to figure out where that quarterback is. So,
Yep.
So it's a great play, and everybody, we didn't get to take advantage of a rule, and we prevented a penalty.
Yep, that's good stuff, and that's something that in that pregame conference, because it's funny how many times now we'll go in, hey coach, is there anything special that you want us to keep an eye out for? And some coaches are like, nope, just straight football. And then all of a sudden, the first play of the game, they come out in a swinging gate, and we're like, straight football? Like, and so now you've thrown us a curveball. Now our keys get off kilter where we could have prepared for that swinging gate formation, the muddle huddle type stuff. And so we ask for it on the same end. Just communicate with us. I'm not going to go into the other side. And coach, you've been around for 39 years. Like I said, I've been coaching. So some of the coaches that I'm going up to played for me. So be honest with me. And for the coaches out there, I'm not going to the other sideline and say, well, hey guys, watch out for this play. I'm not there for that. I'm there to officiate, spot the ball, wind the clock, and keep everything safe for everybody. So please, coaches, communicate as much as you can with us. I had a previous coach said he brings a notebook out with him and shows the different formations because he doesn't want to ever get called for an illegal formation. I'm like, all right, that's good stuff.
Anytime we're doing something different because of the microphones, I will do that. If we're going to do a swing gate or an overload to where, or maybe an uneven offense where the guy, the last guy on the line of scrimmage is a tight end, but he's playing the tackle position.
Yep.
I'll actually tell them before the play starts, hey, you may want to not, they may want to call not enough men on the line of scrimmage, but we're running that overload formation. So again, you try to help the officials as opposed to trick them.
So in your career, you've had to, and I could say this without being biased, you've had to have bad games by officiating crews. You've had, and some crews are better than other crews. Some crews are having a bad night. Other crews are having a great night. So is there one particular instance that really kind of still eats at you in a negative? I want to talk a little bit about a negative scenario first, if you don't mind, that hopefully we can learn from, that you never have to experience, that you wish that never happened. Is there a thing where the officials truly did play a part in the game where they shouldn't have?
There's, and I could bring up several, but there was one. So our last game of the year, Indiana's really quirky, I would say backwards, maybe ancient. You can tell by my voice, I don't approve of our playoff format. We do a ping pong ball format. So you don't know who you're playing, and a ping pong ball pops up. So two teams with 0 wins might be on the opposite side of the bracket as two teams that are 9-0.
Wow.
Yeah. Overwhelmingly not popular in our state, but they won't change, and it is what it is. So as much as I can brag about the IHSA, I think it gives me some levity to make a major complaint as well. But
absolutely.
So we were ranked, I think, 10th in the country or somewhere in that last year. Ben Davis, a school that's close to us, it's won some national championships and is a fantastic program as well. We had to play in the first round of the playoffs. So they've lost one game, and it's to IMG in a close game. and we're undefeated, and we're playing in the first round. And like most coaches, if you guys have a guy that has a habit of holding, like if their left tackle is on our best defensive end, obviously I'm going to say, and if that guy's been holding a lot, I'm going to say, hey, 75 holds a lot, and I've got a Division I guy against him. Just make sure they don't gain advantage by holding. So I obviously that goes on. Well, our fullback, our H-back he'd probably had 6 or 7 penalties on holding throughout the year. And we're running a play, which probably would have been the knockout punch for us to win a ball game. And he goes out and makes a tremendous block on their safety. We spring it, we go for a long touchdown. Well, their entire sidelines erupts, which I'm sure they had seen him hold throughout the year, the 6 or 7 penalties plus probably 6 or 7 that wasn't called. So they erupt for a holding call, and then the holding call gets dropped behind the play. And when we watch on film stuff, I think it was more influenced by the sidelines than the actual hold call, which a little bit on us, because if you feel like the sidelines is starting to intimidate or influence the referees, we'll try to run all outside plays to our sidelines, so that influence can't happen. So that was a big one, and I think this is something that a lot of states should consider. Kentucky, they switch the line judges at halftime.
We do that in New Jersey too. That's the college motto. That's the college method. College and NFL do that.
I did not know that. See, so that's even more information. But then you don't feel like, and especially if you have a young guy, and I really wouldn't know who the ref was on that side, so I'm not trying to say anything negative about anybody. But if you have a young guy, or maybe a guy that does get influenced by a sideline, if they get a flip, then if there's it just gives a different personality to the game, and it makes the coach and our staff not feel like they've gained an advantage. So what we want to do? We now want to yell at the referees, and the second thing I think it would solve is that they'll be really tough on our sidelines, like on a coach maybe coming out to the hash mark, or vice versa. So I'm not saying the other team always gets the advantage. Well, if they switch at halftime, if you say like, oh, why aren't you saying something to that guy? He's on the hash, and if I step a foot on there, you're threatening me with a flag, or maybe even we don't get very many flags. But matter of fact, I'll tell you a funny story on my only flag I can remember. But I think that would solve a lot of relationships if they flipped. So maybe you can give our head of officials, Robert Falcons, one of our IHSA commissioners, a call and suggest that. So, but I will tell a quick story on my 15-yard flag. We were in a game and neither team could score at all. Both defenses were a lot better than the offenses. And we break a long run. And it's just as the 40-second clock is getting initiated in our state. I think we were the first state to do it.
Okay.
I think. We were the trial state, I think. So as we break this long run and we get down to the 4 or 5 yard line, well, the refs were just getting used to it. So they did it when the ball stopped. They did it. The chains hadn't moved, anything else. And so we get a delay of game. But he's whining. They're not ready either. I mean, the balls, because they're running 60 yards as well, the referees are. But they're getting used to that 40-second clock. Well, I tried to get them to change their mind. I called it, a timeout. I'm beyond. I feel like it's the only way we're going to score a touchdown or maybe either team. Well, I walk over to the sidelines, and I'm still mad, and I go to throw my hat down, and it goes under my arm and flies out right by the official. I mean, right at his feet. Well, everybody thought I threw my hat out. Like I wished I had, because then it would have been a little bit more orchestrated. So the referee looks down, and I said, "Hey, can I pick up my hat?" And of course I get nailed with a 15-yard flag, and I couldn't even. We scored on the next play from 17 yards out or whatever,
Okay.
20 yards. It worked.
So you're able to make up for it. That is a good story. And you said it before. It's an emotional game, and the emotion sometimes comes out, and things happen. Going back to what you were talking about the flip flopping of sides. Now, I want to say in New Jersey we're going to be going into our third or fourth year we've implemented that system, and I gotta say it has taken us some time to get used to it because our mechanics are different. So the first year was a little bit different because I was opposite the chains to start off.
Right.
So I never really had to worry about the chain crew and different things like that. So my keys were a little bit different than what the chain crew was. So I was more in charge of clock management, making sure if they got a first down, kill the clock, different things like that. Now, when we flip-flopped, the person who wasn't used to the clock management had to try and get used to it in that aspect. So it did change for a little bit, but we got used to it. And I do agree with you. A lot of old school officials don't like it because they like building the rapport with the coach and they can kind of manage their sideline a little bit better. But the answer that you're talking about, of that not one side is getting favorite calls from an official or buying calls and different things like that because somebody's chirping in their ear the whole game, it does help in that aspect. So I do agree with you. So with that, Coach, we're going to take a quick pause here, take a little beer run. So anybody's got to go refill their beverage. It's right now is a good time to do it. And when we come back with Coach Hart, we are going to dive into our flagged facts, our little coach's quiz game. See how Coach is with his up-to-date rules here, and see if we can maybe trick him on one or two. Hopefully not. So stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
If you're enjoying today's show and you want to show your appreciation to Mike D, you can buy him a beer by clicking on the link in the show notes or go to buymeacoffee.com/Mike D the referee. And as always, make sure to click follow and give 5 stars. Thanks for listening. Cheers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back here with Coach John Hart of Brownsburg, Indiana. Coach Hart has been nice enough to take some time with us to talk about some of his accolades. But now it's our turn as officials now to see if Coach is up on all of his rules. So here we go with our flagged facts, our whistle talk rule quiz. Coach, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. Question number 1. It's 1st and 10. And so you know, Coach, I'm going to talk to you in the official language, A and B, instead of offense and defense. So A, 1st and 10 from the 50-yard line. A34 takes a handoff and runs to the B45 where he is tackled inbounds. During the run, A78 blocks below the waist at the A47-yard line. So now the general terminology. Running back takes a handoff, goes around the side, gains 5 yards, but during the play, one of his linemen basically cut blocks somebody behind the original line of scrimmage. Coach, what do you got here for penalty enforcement? Where do you think we're going to snap the next play from?
Well, and this rule just changed this year, I think, with National Federation, but everything becomes at the line of scrimmage, or unless it's downfield, then it would be in the enacted from where the foul occurred. So if this happened behind the line of scrimmage, it'd be a 15-yard penalty from the line of scrimmage. Am I correct?
You nailed it, Coach. So it's going to be A's ball stole, but now it's 1st and 25 from their own 35-yard line. Again, because the foul occurred behind the line of scrimmage or behind the end of the run, we're going to go from the previous line of scrimmage as opposed to where the foul occurred. So like you just said, this recently changed. In previous years, we'd be marking 15 yards off from the 47-yard line. Now we're going to go from the 50-yard line. So it's only 3 yards, but it's a game of inches, so that does matter. And in this scenario, The clock is going to start on the ready for play, which is the referee's whistle, and it will be a 25-second clock in this scenario. So it's not a full 40 seconds. So after we administer the penalty, get what the coaches want, once we blow that whistle for ready for play, you got 25 seconds from there. All right. Good job on number one.
Well, I really like that rule. It can become a huge penalty, like if a quarterback's scrambling behind the line of scrimmage and is 20 yards deep and throws the ball downfield, but there's a holding call instead of it being a 35, 40-yard penalty, which it could be. And then it's still a 15-yard penalty, and it keeps that game in flow as opposed to making it an impossible second or third down or fourth down.
Correct. And you and I both know from the years of coaching, don't really have many play calls for 1st and 35.
Amen.
So, all right. Question number 2. K, 4th down and 10 from the R30. So now we got a kick play here. K's scrimmage kick is blocked by R37. The kicker, K11, scoops the ball and runs to the R22 where he is tackled. So in this scenario, we got a team going for a field goal from the 30-yard line. A guy comes off the end, blocks the kick. The kicker heads up enough, scoops the ball up, and he runs it to the 22-yard line. Coach, who do you think's getting the ball next, and where are we snapping it from?
We should be going to the 22-yard line because the ball is behind the line of scrimmage. Now, again, this is, if I'm understanding correctly, the ball's behind the line of scrimmage, so the ball can be advanced. So wherever the kicker is tackled is where the ball would be spotted.
Correct. And whose ball would it be in this scenario?
It is. Is it
so
first,
we had
did he
fourth,
get a first down?
10. He only gained 8 yards.
Oh, so still it still goes over to the other team.
That is 100% correct. So ours ball, 1st and 10 from the 22-yard line for everything that you just said. Because the ball stayed behind the line of scrimmage and the ball was blocked behind the line of scrimmage, so it happened at the 37-yard line, the kicking team has the ability to advance and potentially score. In this scenario, if he would have gotten 2 more yards, he would have gotten enough for a first down, but he was tackled short of the line to gain. So the ball still then transfers over to the defense. So now it's 1st and 10 from the 22-yard line for the defending team. Good job, Coach.
Well, if anybody but the kicker probably would have covered it, they probably would have scored. But we know what kickers.
I don't know. You get some of those big linemen down there. You never know. All right. Oh, question number 3. I already gave you the answer here. I messed up on my PowerPoint. All right. After a touchdown now, kick's point is going, trying for an extra point. Okay. Try for point is blocked at the R10. R25 scoops the ball up and returns the ball all the way for an apparent 2-point return. Coach, you can't get this one wrong. It's right on your screen. What do you got?
Well, I think the key is the referees blow it dead right away so that you know that it's and obviously it's up there, but it's blown dead so that there is no recovery, no return. So it doesn't matter regardless who recovers, right?
That is correct. So in the high school rules, a blocked extra point cannot be returned. There is no defensive 2-point play in that aspect. As in college and in the NFL, you can return that for a 2-point score. So teach the kids to scoop and score still, though, Coach, because you may catch one on some referees, especially at a younger level, but it should be blown dead and no points awarded.
Mike,
all right, Coach.
Let's get National Federation to change to the college NFL. I think it would make people scared to kick an extra point to go up by 2. So you give a chance to change the game. I would actually like to see that rule changed.
Okay. I like that. Never really honestly thought about that. And actually, that's a great lead into my next question for you now. And great job on the quiz. But now my next thing I was going to talk to you about is the evolution of the game. We've seen, and you've seen in particular over the past couple of years, a lot of different rules change. And we just kind of talked about that with the penalty enforcement. Are there any rules out there, Coach, that you wish were changed that still haven't been changed? Start on that side first.
Yeah, I would like to see. I really hate cutting. We don't practice it. if we do it in a game, it's not coached by us. A kid might do it, but I think we get a high-low. It will happen almost before our refereeing crew can ever catch it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think it has any place in our game. If taught the game well enough, you can reach from the backside. The reason why there was a cut rule ever, now I know it has to be on the line of scrimmage, and I don't know who came up with this rule, but 6 feet from the ball as opposed to, a lot of people think it's the tackle. It's, that's the cutting surface, but it's really a tight end. Like if you go foot to foot, a tight end can cut into the box. He's actually
Yep.
part of the box because of the 6-foot rule. So that we made a very difficult rule that really doesn't have any place in our game anymore because of injuries and because it's really hard for a referee to figure out if that tight end's, if they're one of those toe-to-toe guys, if the tight end is in, if the tackle is in. Sometimes tackles get big splits and they cut back
Yep.
into the box. Technically, they should be illegal. I think we can make the game a lot easier. Then anytime somebody cuts, you don't have to worry about, was that a high-low, was there contact? Because if we have a team that's cutting from the backside, we're going to always initiate contact with the person we're going to. So they're supposed to call a high-low.
Yep.
Every time. I really don't like that technique.
And I will tell you that is a penalty that we're not throwing warnings on. That is one that we see we're throwing it because of the safety factor. And I will admit I am guilty of this. One of my last years of coaching, we were running the flex bone. We were running the Navy's triple option, and that was part of their scheme with the backside cuts. Now, I thought we did a really good job of teaching it the correct way and not rolling on ankles, not leg whipping and different things like that. Teaching the front side guys ripping through so they're not initiating any contact. But unfortunately, we still had a pretty severe injury happen to an opposing player because our kid did it incorrectly in a game. Their kid's cleat got caught up, and I don't even remember if it was grass or turf, but I know the cleat got caught up, and unfortunately, it ended this young man's career, and it's still something that I feel guilt for even teaching that. So I do agree with you in that aspect. It is a difficult thing to sometimes see. I could tell you with the O-to-O that we were discussing earlier, we do talk about that with our sideline officials. Me as an umpire, that's predominantly my call. But if the wing guy is seeing the tight end do that cut, he'll throw it, and then we'll communicate because it's better to throw that penalty because of the safety factor and me say, no, he was inside the box, which I'm probably not going to do. I'm not going to lie to you. But we're communicating with each other in all those scenarios.
Yeah, for the Mike, for the first 18 years of my coaching career, we ran the flex bone, and us too. We cut from the backside, but as you experience, you start finding out that this game got better by rule changes, and it's at an all-time popular. We have 5,000 or 6,000 people at every game at Brownsburg, and it's amazing.
That's incredible atmosphere. I'd love to be part of that myself each and every week. So that's a great point that you brought up. How about on the other side? What rule changes recently have you seen that you do like, especially when we're talking about safety of the kids? Is there anything in particular that really you're good with?
I love the 40-second rule. So we talked about that briefly already.
Yep.
That was, it helped everybody. It helped the clock keepers. So at a home game, you didn't feel like a clock keeper was, having an advantage. The referees, they didn't have to decide when to set the ball to kind of set the 25-second clock. And as coaches, it allowed us to coach the 40-second clock. Now, again, at the end of a half and stuff, I know it goes back to a 25-second clock, but or at the end of a game. But I think the 40-second clock helped us manage the game, and it kept flow in the game, which again I think made it safer.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah, I definitely am a proponent for both those things that you just talked about, and the cut blocks. I would love to see it go to the wayside. I can honestly say, not seeing it as much as we did, which is a good thing. So people are really working on keeping kids up high, playing football up high, and running the feet more so, as opposed to going down and cutting. But like I said, that's something. If I see it, that's not a warning. That's a flag. So it could be the first play of the game. Unfortunately, it could be the last play of the game. That's for the safety of the kids. And like I said, I learned that one the hard way. So my apologies out there too if that former player is listening to me. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll tell you another rule that I think got better, and we won a state championship on the other side of it. We've had a lot more great officiating than officiating that I disagree with, but the uh, the second state championship game we won, we're at the state championship, and we have a broken play that's at the end of the ball game. My son's actually the quarterback. He throws the ball, and the rule prior to 2009 was is if you would have landed in bounds and the defender knocks you out, the touchdown counts. And uh, we get the touchdown. The opposing team is crazy mad, and I wouldn't blame him. But he would have came in bounds. But he was knocked out 2 or 3 yards. I mean, the kid's up in the air really high. The next year, National Federation changed it, made it easier for our players, and again for the officials, the fans. To you have to have 1 foot in like the collegiate rule.
Yep. And for those that are unaware of it, it used to be, and as Coach said, if you jumped up and you gained possession of the ball while you were in bounds, but in the air and got pushed out of bounds, you were given credit for that catch. Because if there was no force, you would have landed in bounds. That ended up being a very big gray area for us as officials. How do I know that that kid's going to be athletic enough to land and still keep their feet in bounds as opposed to landing with 1 foot out of bounds and 1 foot in bounds? So now they kind of made it easier for us too, that we now are looking at the feet in that scenario. And just so you know, Coach, on how we're taught on the sidelines, if the back is to me and I can't see the ball, I'm shooting right down to the feet to make sure the feet are in bounds. If I'm seeing the ball, I'm focusing to make sure that that player gained possession before they went out of bounds. And then we're communicating with each other on the sideline. So if you see a delay on that call, we're possibly looking around the sidelines. What'd you have? What'd you have? Okay, catch. And now we'll give the signal, or we'll give that out of bounds signal. So that's a mechanic that we work on together. And that's where us as a crew, getting to know each other and communicating with each other and working hand in hand with them, it helps us out. Now that's a benefit we have in New Jersey. Talking about that 6-man crew, we have 2 guys right on that sideline. So that's where we have the advantage. Where in the 5-man crew, that extra set of eyes is in the middle of the field. Sometimes you don't get that vantage point. So that's the one negative with a 5-man crew.
I do think we have 6 man, so I'll correct
Okay.
myself. I'll probably get a hard time by every official in the state of Indiana and most of the coaches.
Well, they may come up and introduce all 6 individually to you before the game. But yeah, so that is one of the major benefits of the six man crew. And now I can also tell you, state championship game, we had a 7th man. We went to the collegiate rules where we had that guy down center field now still, because that now takes out the gray area where we've now encountered in 6-man. Middle of the field can be sometimes difficult because you got overlapping keys. So having that 7th man, that definitely did help us out. So, Coach, with that, I want to say thank you once again for joining us. Is there anything that you would like to add for our listeners out there to help promote and grow this game?
Well, I love high school football. I've had opportunities to do other things at other levels and stuff, and man, the impact that I feel, let alone hopefully our kids feel, from the game of football is tremendous. And man, it's a great marriage between our associations, our fans, and the referees, and all of us probably have our moments one way or another.
Yep. But Coach, once again, truly appreciate you taking the time out. Honored that you're coming on my small little show here. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Coach John Hart, okay, Brownsburg, Indiana, top 20 winningest coach, active coaches right now in the entire country. Thank you for your insight, Coach. Nothing but the best of luck for you. And if there's anything during the season that I can do to help you guys out, you know how to reach me. Feel free to contact me. I'll talk with your players if you want, help you out, do something of that aspect. But truly, I appreciate you taking the time tonight. Thank you again.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Whistle Talk, where we unravel the fascinating world of football officiating. If you enjoyed today's discussion and want to stay in the loop with the latest insights, be sure to subscribe to Whistle Talk on your favorite podcast platform. Stay connected with us by following Whistle Talk on social media, where we share behind-the-scenes glimpses, updates, and engage with our incredible community of officiating enthusiasts. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search for the words Whistle Talk. Your support means the world to the show, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future episodes. Drop us a line through our website or message me on social media. I'm always eager to connect with the fellow fans and continue the conversation. Until next time, keep blowing the whistle on the untold stories and nuances of football officiating. Thanks for being part of the Whistle Talk family. This is Mike D., the referee, saying so long for now.